Doc, I really appreciate your time.
Of course.
For those that don't know you, can you make a brief introduction about yourself and your journey and what got you to be where you are now in Boise State?
Okay, I'm gonna give it to you in two chunks here. The first one,
Okay.
tweet length description. The second part is going to be a haiku. Has that
Okay.
ever been done? I don't think so. Okay.
No.
I'm Doc, head coach of Boise State Esports, which is 4 games: Valorant, Overwatch, Rocket League, Smash. I've been doing this for 8 years. How I got here, the haiku. Professor, research, esports is going to be huge. Oh crap, I'm in charge. There you go.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
also something that got a lot of repercussion on social
Mhm.
media was that you guys uh, fall under athletics. So like, can you go under like what made it possible
You
and
bet.
how can other D1 schools follow, that
And
action, those
and
steps?
they,
Yeah.
they should they follow? That's up to them ultimately. There are
Hmm.
some amazing programs that are anchored in really strong academic colleges that make complete sense as far as I'm concerned. So our amazing colleague Glenn at Miami, Ohio, right? They're connected to their really to their entertainment arts you know piece, and so they've got a ton of support coming in from on the broadcasting side, the storytelling side, the technical side, and their esports team is tied to that. University of Utah with AJ Dimmick also tied in the same way. Their electronic arts, connected program. They do a lot of game design, and so that's just a natural blend of those things. For us, we started in the College of Education where I was a professor, back to the haiku, moved to the College of Innovation and Design, which you can think of like as a Shark Tank or a startup college, right? They take really innovative ideas and they build them up so that they can graduate as a fully formed uh, department to another college. That's what they do. They incubate programs from good idea to self-sustaining departments that can move to another college, because often college won't take a big risk on a new program, um, if they're going to just have to dump their limited resources into it. But so, but for us, at a big Division I football school, right? I mean, we play college football here, U.S. College football, and so we have a large athletic presence. It made a lot of sense for us to graduate from our college into the athletic department. If you think about it this way, we don't offer classes. We're just a competitive unit. We fund our own program with broadcasts and sponsorships and partners, but we're more like a basketball team or a volleyball team
Hmm.
than we are a traditional academic department. Because even though I'm a faculty member for like 19 years, that we don't offer classes, and that's by design, right? We want to be a platform, a competitive platform that other people, just like athletics, can offer classes on. And the way that that works is if you go to a I'll say a basketball game, right? There are students on the sideline that are serving as athletic trainers, right? There are students working the broadcast that are part of the communications department. There are students that, right? It's a platform for people to build curriculum around what basketball does, but basketball does not create that curriculum. They just play basketball. We just play esports.
And how do you monetize on the broadcasting side? Because like you guys do like
Mhm.
30 plus hours per week
Yep.
on broadcasting. Also, like how were you able to basically work with the sponsors that
Yeah.
you're working with so they can also be part of the sustainable system that you have?
Yeah, I mean, the secret is backbreaking, never-ending work. right? That's the secret, is that we decided we were going to add broadcasting as a core component because we wanted to make sure that the story was being told. And so we just took ownership of, we're going to have to tell the story. We're going to have to stream and broadcast. But I'm uncomfortable if it's not great. So we just keep working on trying to make it better and better and better. That will attract and has attracted sponsors, right? People who wanted to be a part of it. Well, this broadcast is just as good as, insert the corollary. For us, it was about making it as good as we could. That process became attractive to sponsors. We could say to, I'll just say Blue Ribbon Painting, we would love to have you as a sponsor. We can give you this piece of inventory on our broadcast. You can present dock skis to the game, right? Which is a function in the broadcast that we sell, right? Or if you want to come in and provide this for us, we'll put you in our rotator, and we'll add a 30-second commercial for you in our breaks and things like that. And then the more you broadcast, the more you can share, and at a higher level, the more you can share it to other places and have other people broadcast it. So, Yvonne, that's a really great question. And for us, that's how we built most of our sponsor base.
Amazing. And how can other programs start? Did you start by collaborating with the Department of Communications, for example, at university to get students into how did you make that happen?
Definitely bring in interested people, right? And if those are in the department next door, do it. But we didn't have that immediate buy-in because we were early enough. I mean, we're in year 9 now. We were so early that people didn't know what we were talking about. We had to show them. We had to show them a broadcast. And so we just recruited people who had some skills. Maybe they didn't know the games as well, but they definitely had the skills. And we would just bring them in either and employ them temporarily, ask them to volunteer, and just start to create the template from which we would then build more and more broadcast.
Amazing. And for you guys to be part of your athletic department, how long did that process take in meetings, talks, and what were the challenges? Because we always say the nice things, but what were the challenges?
That's a really good question. Actively 4 years. We've been working for 4 years to do what was necessary to graduate from the college we were in into athletics. The challenges were whatever the next big distraction was, because while it was a great idea, we represent another mouth to feed, right, to join athletics. So we have to be in the black financially. We have to make all the money that we need to operate, and they don't need to provide additional resources because we have 18 sport programs here. You add us and cheerleading, we become 19 and 20, right? And cheerleading had been in there for quite a while. So it was important for us to just make sure that we had our house in order. And we got a lot of help from a lot of people on campus to do that. Just, I mean, from budget meetings to help us figure out better processes. Though, and a lot of folks who run college programs know this. Sorry, this is so boring to players, but it's important to think about is that universities are not really good businesses, right? They don't move money in and out in effective ways. They don't buy. They don't shop well. They're uncomfortable taking in a $250,000 check. Who gets it? Who signs it? What accounts does it go? I mean, all those things are things that a big business knows exactly how they'll do, but a university academic department or college doesn't. So those were things we had to overcome. Plus, in the U.S., we've had a big NIL movement over the last really 6-7 years, and that's always been part of the discussion because our athletic departments had to manage that. If we want to be competitive in these sports, we have to be able to offer NIL, name, image, and likeness opportunities for our top tier recruits so that they'll come here. And that takes energy and bandwidth, and esports, great idea, huge opportunity, super novel. Joining athletics, that makes sense, but there were often bigger fires, right, that they had to tend to. So when you talk about obstacles, I mean, it's no one's fault. I mean, a lot of things happen. We had a Heisman Trophy candidate, which is the biggest individual football award for U.S. colleges, and we had a finalist in that. That takes a ton of energy to just manage the media around that. We were in the college football playoff last year, which again, huge. So all of that can delay the progress on things like this. The thing we had to learn was to just be patient, and if it's going to be, it will be, and if it's not going to be, then it's not going to be, and we have to operate anyway, right? We just can't make that our dependent lifeboat and the only one that we can put our energy into. So
Patience and persistence. Yeah.
yep,
Tell me about
and
it.
being willing to go where the natural course takes you, not to fight against the river, but to use its energy to go where it is most natural. And so we've had to do a lot of that.
And your players eventually, with like all the brands that
Mhm.
are wanting to activate with your athletes in traditional sports, will your players eventually also gain, some advantage? Let me rephrase this. So, like the brands that w- work with Boise State with their athletes, will the esport players also be able to gain advantage of that, or how will that work?
So yeah, are they building relationships with those brands?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. We've Crucial is a big brand local for us. It is the Micron memory and storage component. They used to be Ballistics, right, which have sponsored major teams. Their offices are local here. One of our students was able to participate in an NIL opportunity where he was
Mhm.
part of a commercial campaign. They shot that commercial in our facility with a big time director. And that relationship was forged because we have this relationship. There are other similar opportunities with other relationships that we have. They don't affect all students universally. Often sponsors are looking for not just brand ambassadors, but NIL relationships that just fit one or two students uniquely, right? It's not available to everybody. But yes, I mean, the long answer to your simple question is we do make those connections, and where they make sense, they flourish, and where they don't, they just don't.
Mhm. One may think, like, for one, myself, I thought that also, like, being now under athletics would provide more funding, but you mentioned that you're self-sustainable, and that wasn't the case. So in terms of like what immediate advantages have you experienced? Is it in terms, is it visibility? Like what have you experienced now with this new era
Well,
of the program?
there are three of them, I think. Number one is that it plugs us into the best culture for us, right? The competitive culture of big organizations, um, of big leadership. The thing that keeps popping into my head is, I mean, an amazing football club. Has multiple levels, multiple teams. They have their women's team. They have their multiple youth teams, but they have this structure and this culture above all of those competitive teams that says we do this and we don't do this. When we show up, you do this. You're always on time. Be on the pitch at this time, ready to go. And there's a competitive culture of like I'm not going to get to the pitch after coaches or after the manager is. I'm going to be there before the manager is, right? They have these successful strategies that are baked into the way they operate. Those are not standard in academic colleges or departments, right? So the first thing we get is this is the cultural piece that athletics provides, which is student first, athlete 1A. These are the big things that are important in your life. Call your mom. Be healthy. Be a great teammate. Do what you can to prepare yourself. Be the best that you can. I mean, all of those are kind of culturally baked, and we do those things, but we've always done those things simply by mimicking what we see athletics do, right? We wanted to be in athletics, the old phrase, dress for the job you want. I'm dressed like I could be a tennis coach. And so that's the process for us. So number one is we get culture. The second thing, you mentioned it, which is visibility, right? So there's this brief window where people are like, what's going on here? And we've got a quick opportunity to tell our story. What is our story? It's pretty simple. Our story is to our audience, right? We are going for blue turf Bronco fans everywhere. That's our tribe. And I mean, just like, when you see somebody has the same scarf, that you do, recognize your team colors, there's a bond there. That is college athletics in a nutshell, right? It's tribes. And there are 800 plus tribes, right? So the visibility to our community has allowed us these connections. I think that many of those connections will become sponsor relationships and donor relationships, right? And so we've got this opportunity to tell our story that is surprisingly similar to the story that they already know. I like to say that what we do, right? You may not know the field we play it on, but you know that we recruit the best players we can, often with a chip on their shoulder. They're hardworking student athletes, because at this university, no one gives us anything for free, right? We're constantly told we don't belong at the top level, but we keep arriving at the top level, right? It is a chip on your shoulder kind of attitude. So we try to tell them that story to a certain extent. We want them to see our students just like any other student athletes. We create social media around them that is very geared toward an athletic audience. We've always done that. We want them to see what we do, even though they don't understand how we do it or where we do it. They want to understand, like, oh, that's this other thing that I know. That's just like soccer. That's just like volleyball. That's what we want. We want that culture to carry over. And really, the third benefit of it is that they have all of these tools that we have been hungry for forever. They have people that are just focused on travel. We travel 4 or 5 times a year. It's pulling teeth every time we do. It's really hard and painful to travel because we just don't do that professionally. They have professionals that do it. Grade checks, hard for an academic department, easier for athletics. They have all of these systems that we get to plug into, and we're grateful for it.
Amazing.
There you go.
Regarding, yeah, amazing. Like, regarding the trust, you touched on it a bit, but like, how would you say that you build trust with your institution regarding by showing, okay, like you said it, but for other programs, how can they also like build trust with institutions for them to, like, take them at the level that you guys are with your institution in terms of trust?
So trust is never blind. Trust is knowing what you will do, or knowing what someone will do when they're placed in a situation where they've got to make a decision. Trust is knowing what you'll get. And so with our players, players are like, hey, we want to go out and do this. We're in Vegas. We want to go out and do this. Trust is knowing what will happen, and just like with our children, and it's like, what, you don't trust me? No, I trust you to do what your friends do, and I'm not sure that your friends are going to do the right thing. That's what, so that's a great question. How does an institution trust us? The first step of it is that we need to alleviate any concern by just exposing everything. The idea pops into my head, Yvonne. You like this. You walk up to a restaurant you've never eaten at before, and you see these huge pictures of each of the plates. You don't recognize any of the names. You don't know it just looks, and so yeah, it has the ingredients, but it has a picture. You're like, oh, okay, I like those kinds of things, right? You know what you're going to get. And so much of what we do to establish trust is visual vocabulary, right? We constantly choose photos of our players that look like they could be on the softball team, right? Or they could be on the cross country team. They look very similar to those. That's intentional. I'm sure you've seen it. There are photos out there of me with
Yes.
pulling out, yeah, where I'm doing this. Um, that is visual vocabulary that we don't shy away from. Now, I mean, truly, this is a very old one showing the different comps that in Overwatch 1 that UNLV was using on a different thing. Um, Genuinely, this is something we've used in the past on stage to better prepare us, but we don't shy away from those photos because that's a visual vocabulary that they understand, right? They understand and trust a coach-player relationship. But if you just give them a random Valorant player and say, hey, tell them about your game, that may confuse a non-esports person more. So we try to use vocabulary, visual, and otherwise to describe what we do to them. And I think this is really important. We mimic every part of the athletic program because that's where we wanted to end up, that we knew would benefit that trust. So we borrowed the 20 hours a week, 24 weeks of contact rule set, which is from the NCAA, but we're not governed by them, but our other student athletes are. So we're going to do what they do, right? We're going to have the same Bronco code. We're going to have the same GPA requirements. Actually, we're going to ramp them up a little bit because we want to beat the football players. We borrow against all of those things to develop trust, and we try to make sure that we are not stepping on what they do, but simply with admiration mimicking what they do wherever we can. And that builds a lot of trust. So they may not know how Valorant really works and how to tell if somebody's a good player, but they do recognize that our student athletes, by and large, look like their student athletes.
Amazing way to put it. Because usually they focus a lot on like making understand about video games to the administration, but what you
Yep.
just said makes way more sense.
Trust is knowing how someone
Hmm.
will act, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and that is the largest piece that keeps people like holding esports programs at arm's length, is they act like esports orgs, and that's just scary to administration, right? You follow any esports org drama, and that doesn't seem like stable ground at all. So we work really hard to make sure that we behave like a sport program, and that's one of the things that's made us as attractive as we've been.
Okay. Doc, I'm gonna go to the audience. They are
Oh,
writing
okay.
some comments for you to answer.
Let's go.
Brendan from Endicott College. Okay.
I love
My biggest
Endicott.
concern about moving esports under athletics is, do you now have to fight for attention from higher ups with dozens of other programs? As a stakeholder, when evaluating partners and vendors, I never want to be someone's least important client. How do you balance that?
Yeah, I imagine it's similar in big families with lots of mouths to feed. You know, y- I mean, that kind of comparison is what I'm looking for. Comparison is the thief of joy. Um, and so, Brent, it's a great question. We don't care really what softball is trying to accomplish, or golf is trying to accomplish, because we have our own set of rules, and
Mhm.
we don't think that anyone else is going to be our savior, right? We know it's up to us to go out and get the next sponsor. It's up to us to balance our own budget, right? It's up to us to project multi years in advance about how we're going to have to replace machines along the way and things we want. We have to be responsible for our own success, and continue to do that. We yeah we need to be an island in that sense. And joining athletics might sound like, oh, thank goodness I get all this help. You do get some help for sure, but it's still on us, right? And that'll always be the case. And I imagine if you've been a not the prime sport coach at any institution for a period of time, whether you've been, you're the women's golf coach, and you're not thinking about anything but what you've got to do to be successful if you're going to be there a long time and be successful, right? You're focused on your and Jeremiah Dickey, who's our athletic director, says this best. Coaches are the most successful when they're working on culture, coaching, and recruiting. And so if I'm the women's golf coach, which would be scary, that's what I've got to focus on. The culture of our people so that they love being there, they get better, and they graduate. Coaching so that we're getting better every day we're together, and recruiting the next batch of the right people for our program.
Yeah,
I
with the
think
right
all those.
culture, you attract the right people.
Yeah,
Completely
I
agree.
mean, any and all of our success is tied to who has come here, the people that have come here. I like to think that I had something to do with who came here, but the people who have come through this program and are here now are the reason that we're successful. Coaches don't win games, players win games.
Amazing. Also, Haniel Clerkey from Maryville Esports says hi. Haniel, if you wanna, write a question or something, more than welcome.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
But
he's gonna light me up is what he'll do. Dan is one of my absolute favorite humans. Yeah. Amazing colleague, amazing leader, terrific friend. Yeah. Solid dude.
amazing.
Don't tell him I said that. I got to
No,
keep
he's
him
for
off
sure
that.
not listening. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh no. He's fighting
Also,
with somebody on Twitter.
no, he's putting the light. Like he's always inspiring the other esports directors on X. So yeah.
I know I've told this story before, but I'll tell the shortened version of it. When I first met him in 2019, I was introduced to him with a video that they had produced with he and Dr. Lombardi at the president of Maryville at the ESPN Blizzard Championship in Houston, and he was confident. I even said at the time, "What a DB this guy is." I got to meet him. I was like, "Oh, this guy, he's gonna be my nemesis." I can already tell, and that's true. But it didn't take long for I was like, "Dang it." He's right about some things, and he really cares about the students, and he wants the health of the program, and he wants success. He wants this thing to grow. I'm like, shoot. So I wanted to make him the villain in the beginning, and actually he's main character energy. He's kind of the hero. So yeah, it's the strangest story. I needed my villain, and he wouldn't do that for me. So.
But it's not strange because like most good friendships start like at the beginning. I just didn't get him, but then with time he became.
Yeah.
That's how
No, I
there's
mean,
friendships.
so and I have to credit Dan. He and I had a conversation like 4 or 5 years ago when we were experiencing this move. The players were moving from the collegiate ranks into leaving college and going for their pro experience, their academy experience, and otherwise. And he said, we got to find a way so that these folks don't have to leave school. We got to find a way to do that. And it was through that process that we came up with a completely different strategy, which was we would over recruit for different games so that we could buffer the time that they're gone. Because I mean, a pro experience, depending on the game, is 6 weeks, right? Where you're trialing and then scrimming and then competing and then it's over, you're out, right? And there's this small window of time. 35-year-olds are not trialing, scrimming, and competing at Worlds. They're just not, right? So there's this time, and it happens to be when college exists. And so we developed the approach where we could take someone like Jonathan Foraker, clear, and give him all of his competitive time back, but keep him on campus, keep him in his classes, which we got moved to all online so that he could continue it, not be completely derailed. And he's been a million places over the last couple of years. Obviously, he was in Stockholm for the OW, World Championships. He's been in Korea a couple times, Japan and China for these big majors. He can't do that if we're fighting him for his competitive time, or he has to leave school, right? So, and I credit Dan with that, with really making that conversation happen. And when I first met him, I would not have considered that DB who was going to be my enemy would be so concerned about what happens to a student if they leave school. But he knew that they don't come back. And if they do, they really struggle to have continued success after they've taken a bunch of time off from college. The best thing to do is to keep them progressing and eligible without like giving up this whole home base that they have in our programs. Tier 2 in many of the games is collegiate. It's the most support that you get. It's the most most monetary success, and you get a place to live. You get food. You get clothing. You get a purpose. You get somebody who's checking up on you. You get access to medical care, and that's just not the truth with a lot of orgs. So for those reasons, yeah, I count that moment as like one of those major pivot points in my world. And I won't take up our time today. I'll write a book someday on all the things. I'm like, dang it, Dan's right. Maybe that's what I'll call the book. Dang it, Clerky was right. Ugh, that's so frustrating.
No,
but it's true.
Well,
That's why I love him.
DB sends you a heart in the comment section.
Double check. He's blowing up my phone. Not yet.
And also, we have a question from Riley Long, director of NACE.
Who? Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I was being funny. Who? I know, right?
my pronunciation.
No, yours is great.
He says, "Hi Doc. Outside of a new sponsorship vertical for athletics, what other forms of value do you envision the esports program bringing to athletics at Boise State, such as leveraging your broadcast tech to support an athletics, traditional sports program, initiative, etc.?"
Yeah, I mean, I've got a great example of that comes right away. So our athletic department is spinning up something they're calling Bronco Studios, right? Which is a studio direct streaming show. There's a huge market in the US, especially for colleges, to sell space on talk shows about their teams, right? Again, it's all tribal. And as soon as we got added, we always joke that we're a television studio with a championship esports team, in that order, because we do so much broadcasting. We were able to have one meeting with them and help to outline and organize everything that they wanted to do with this studio, this live stream studio. They know how to shoot traditional media. They know how to edit long form and short form content. They don't need us for that. But there were a lot of questions about how do you do a television broadcast, because they don't do that, right? They'll provide feeds for the television broadcast, but they don't home run any of that. They don't have their own control room. So we were able to say, oh yeah, well here's the tools that you can use to bring in this data, and here's how we do this over here. I mean, so we were immediately beneficial to them in the planning and organization. Also, we're going to train in our and assign in our studio the folks that are going to work their shows. We're going to be responsible for just staffing their show and make sure that it's built out in a way that we can train and support it. So immediately we provided, that's a great question, Riley, expertise they didn't have. And that was really helpful. The other thing is that, and Riley, this is implied in your question, but I don't think existed. We're not covered under the Learfield side of the deal. So Learfield, which is a big licensing and marketing company, pays our university, or any university, millions of dollars a year, and then they own the rights to the licensing, to the logo, to sell to the company that made this hat, right? And because of that, they make a bunch of money. Learfield makes a bunch of money. They don't own esports. We're not part of that negotiation. So we represent a ton of inventory that now our athletics department can sell to benefit themselves, to help support our budgets, right? We'll certainly take any of that. But, naming rights on the building, award naming rights. I mean, they want to sell a feature during their basketball games where they show a minute highlight brought to you by this local beverage company, and it's all our highlights. We can produce that at next to no cost, and they can make the money on that. We're an inventory factory, right? If we want to do the Riley Long, oops, I screwed that up, play of the game, sponsored by Depends undergarments for old people. I don't know about them. I've just heard. Then we can sell that. That's money into the program. That for the Riley Long. Oops, I screwed up. Play of the game. There you go. That's new inventory. But we can generate that at a rate that that no one else can, because they're already locked into licensing. I mean, any esports program probably could do that, even if they were tied into a Learfield. But frankly, Learfield and a lot of those Playverses and what's the other one? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Playfly. They really don't know how to market. They're struggling to sell their other inventory. They're not really looking to sell esports inventory like Level Next was a few years ago. But we can find somebody for that, and we can essentially just generate anything we choose to. So.
Mm-hmm. Riley says, "LOL. Thanks, Doc. Great stuff."
You bet. Yeah, we'll get that inventory. Like, I'll send you the mock-ups to the oops, I screwed it up stuff.
We have another question from a player from YouTube that he's watching us from YouTube.
Nice.
Hey, I'm Eric from Spain. Which requirement is the most important to be selected into a top team and to be the most recognized player? Is it the same, or do you have to transition to another trait?
So I don't know if y'all have huckleberries. You know what a huckleberry is?
No.
It's kind of an elusive but very, very popular. It's very similar to a blueberry. They tend to exist a lot here in the western side of the U.S. They grow at a certain altitude. They only grow wild. You can't cultivate them. They have to be in a very specific biome that probably has snow part of the year but gets hot enough during the summer. If you pick huckleberries, you know your spot. You don't tell anybody else about your spot. You go to your spot and you pick your huckleberries, and maybe if somebody wants, you'll bring them to them, but you'll never tell them where your secret spot is. And a lot of directors, this is a great question, but a lot of directors kind of treat recruiting like they know their secret spots. They don't share their secret spots because it makes their job easier. We recruit people. I mean, ours is not that secret, but we recruit people mostly Colorado West with a 3.8 GPA or higher coming out of high school. For us, those people stay the longest. We don't have to re-recruit them, but we don't have to recruit those positions multiple times or every year. Our buddy Clerky recruits at a level where a lot of times his players get pulled into the pro ranks all the way, like full-time job, career level stuff, and has to replace parts or sometimes full rosters depending on what people do. We can't be in that game because we can't spend that much time recruiting. So what I would do is I would make sure that you are playing at the highest level and most visible level you can. You'll get the most eyes on you. If you're playing RLCS and you're playing with an organization that does a ton of great media and broadcasting, you're going to be able to attract some attention. But also, when you ping somebody and I immediately turn over and I search you on Liquipedia or one of those other tools, I'm going to find you. I'm going to see your competitive record. I'm going to see the organizations you're with. I'm going to see a picture of you, right? I'm going to see your peak. You cultivate those things. For us, we're looking for top tier, and we're willing to look outside our regular recruiting area if there are other bona fides. And so you just have to make sure that your profile says everything it can about you. And so make sure that you're playing with groups that are are really good at getting reported on Liquipedia. Even if you don't win every tournament, be visible, be public, so that we can find you, or we can prove based on what we see of you that we should take the next step in conversation. Naish is Oliver's a great example of someone in the UK who, because there was so much information available on history, both good and bad, right? Had the issue with the when they just weren't playing strong, and they got DQ'd and a 1-year competitive suspension. That's not the same as cheating. It was just kind of being silly and lazy and not thinking people were really watching. But Oliver's a great example of somebody who we were able to reach out to because there was so much that we could find, right? Not in our normal recruiting zone. So great example, visibility. Just try to be as visible as you can, and try to meet people, and just ask questions like, hey, I'm looking for university opportunities, and don't just LFT, LFC. That is not the same as building relationships. You'll get a couple of retweets, you'll get a couple of strange DMs, but you got to get to know people, right? If I'm on a call with you, you better know everything you can about me, about our history. You got to be an active participant, because it comes down to your question a second ago, Yvonne, trust, right? So if we're going to engage in that process, we've got to trust that the next step of that process is going to be worth it. I'm not even saying like come to school, like not the end of the process, the graduating. What's the next step? Like, are we going to trust that? Is it worth it to get on a Zoom call with that player and the family? Is it worth it to get them in a trial, get them with our other players, to take their time to see what's what? And so it really is about building that trust along the way, and players have to do the work up front. I don't expect people to glaze me when they message me.
Mm-hmm.
But they better know where the university is. They better be able to name a couple of things that we've done. They have to have done the work. It can't just, the first question can't be, what are you offering me?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about what we provide up front. It's about what that relationship will
Well, you can bring to the
expect.
program as well.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So, Eric, visibility, network, so you can have those references and do
Yep.
your homework before having a call with Doc.
100%. Or any director. Yeah, I mean, we're looking when I know Dan does this, and Joe Grisiak does this, and tons of our great colleagues do this. They know that recruiting a student to come to our institution is likely a lifelong commitment to relationship and friendship, right? So it's the rarest thing in the world. We get to choose who we want to add to our life for the remainder of it, and doesn't mean that we're always going to be connected and doing everything together. That's not the case. But there'll be a friendship that lasts, and so we get to choose that. You're looking for that relationship too. When you go to college, you don't realize it, but your coach, your leader, your director becomes your mentor for the rest of your life, whether you want to or not. And so it has to be the right relationship. It can't just be about, well, do I get the full 3 meal a day plan, or do I get the 1 meal a day plan? It can't just be about what's in the cash column, right? It has to be about, what is this relationship really for? And some of that is financial support, but the rest of it is like real life support. I mean, ask any director how many letters of recommendation they write. It's a lot. Directors become responsible for helping them get jobs, and taking the next step, and you can't put a dollar value on that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, Doc, amazing knowledge bombs. Amazing. One last question to wrap up.
Okay.
From Samuel Henderson. I believe it's Evansville University.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, Samuel, if I messed up, but I think I think it is. Hello, Doc and Ivan. In pursuit of athletic integration, I imagine aligning standards and values with daily practice was difficult. What are the critical, often hidden hurdles that prevent genuine integration, and what actionable strategies have proven most effective in truly embedding these values into an organization's culture and operations?
It comes back down to trust. What are you doing and what are you going to do? We started with, I got a copy of our student athlete handbook that they give to all the student athletes. Like I got it in 2017, 2018. We immediately modified that and made it our handbook. We removed the elements that we didn't have financial structure for, and changed the points of contact for different things, but we used their entire philosophy, their entire approach, their entire set of expectations, and we just modified it. So we started with that. We followed their structure for how we manage students, 20 hours a week of games, competition, meetings, and other commitments related to the team, no more than 20 hours, and 24 weeks of contact. So 12 in the fall, 12 in the spring. Sometimes those run a little bit longer depending on championship runs and the like, but we just don't spend time during the summer. We take all the breaks off. We give them the right student experience. They trust that. Like, oh, okay, so you're doing what we're doing. Yes. The next piece is that we have struggled and worked really hard for years to establish a schedule that makes sense. We started doing this years ago. We played every football opponent on our football schedule the same week we played them. Didn't matter what games they played, if they played any at all. If we played BYU, we would find 3 kids on the BYU campus that would play us in Rocket League, and we'd play BYU the same week. That is part of that integration, that we respect what they do and we try to match what they do. Now we're involved in the PEC and soon Division I, where we know our full year schedule. We can tell you today that we're playing, USC on the 17th of September. We know that. We know the entire year. We've known it since May. So we can print a poster just like all the other sports do. So that kind of integration with, oh, what does volleyball do? Okay, they do a calendar, they do this, like we look like they look, right? That is really the key piece. There's lots that they can learn about what we do, and they're interested in learning if it doesn't feel too foreign. It just has to kind of feel like it feels for them. So for athletics integration, calendar, appropriate integrations, and Riley knows this. We've had this conversation. One of the things that made it harder for us in NACE is we would play Stone Child College, which is an amazing university or college in Montana, like a 4-nation Native American. It's the coolest freaking place. It didn't have cultural value to our athletic fans. So, but USC does. Different levels of competition. Maryville's an amazing university. If we can take maps off of them, we're pumping our fist. We have to spend more time telling folks about Maryville on the athletic side because they don't have a football team, right? And we're a football campus. That's just who we are. That's not true of everybody. There are lots of places that get exactly how amazing Maryville is. Don't tell them I said this. And yeah, that's what you get.
It's not going to be recorded. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. Good. My point is identify what has value, and use as many of those organizational principles as you can. Our gridiron rivals, which was just challenging the other universities, sometimes just a club, to play us the week of the football game, got us on the football broadcast. The visiting television would come into town. We would find a way to connect with a producer, tell them, hey, we're playing BYU on this night. Like, oh, okay. They'd come down to our space. They do some B-roll footage and use it as a bumper introduction, to one of the segments on there. Just making those broadcasts and proving that what we were doing was what they were doing, and just the field was different, was huge for us. So I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, and very in detail. Doc, thank you so much for your time. And as Riley Boyd said, if you guys want to buy some inventories from Boise State, reach out to him. It's in the comment section, but I want to make it clear.
That's right. He'll make you a good deal.
Always on point.
He'll make you
any
a good
platform
deal.
possible,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doc, thank you so much for your time. And
Still great talking
in the coming months, we may repeat.
Okay, let's do it. Love it.